Well, hello once again, everybody. Meteorologist Jim Dickey back with you for another edition of Tropics Talk here on this Thursday, August the 7th. Same players on the board across the Atlantic as have been all week long. There's, of course, still Tropical Storm Dexter. As I'm recording this anyway, that might change by the time you're watching this. Then two areas we're watching for potential development, one east of the Carolinas, one into the central deep tropical Atlantic here this morning. Let's begin with Dexter. I say this might change the classification of the storm by the time you're watching this because all indications are Dexter is quickly making the changeover, the transition to a non-tropical low pressure area. As of the 5 o'clock advisory, it's moving at 18 miles per hour. It's moving fairly quickly for a tropical system. Wind sustained at 50. The pressure is dropping. Those pressure drops likely to continue. This will continue to intensify. It's just not going to be as a purely tropical system, likely even over time, a non-tropical system. I switch over to a different type of satellite view. If I can get this to go into motion for me here. This here is sort of what's left of the tropical core of Dexter. You still see some circulation with that. It's been absolutely blasted by some wind shear coming out of the west over the last couple of days. So all the thunderstorm activity with Dexter has been off to the east of the center over the last 24 hours, 36 hours or so. Pause that, make that go a little more quickly for you. You can see evidence now that this is becoming that non-tropical low because it's taking on more of that classic comma shape like that. And basically you're seeing evidence of a surface warm front like that. You can see evidence of a surface cold front. I'm going to draw it in red because I don't feel like changing the colors here. Like that, with the low centered in between. You're getting the warm air to flow north out ahead of it, and this cool air diving into the south. Basically what's going on, there's a little upper level disturbance. You can basically trace it out right about there. Little pocket of cool air, disturbance in the jet stream. That is what is going to help this storm form going forward, as opposed to it purely just taking energy from the warmer waters of the Gulf Stream as it has been. Now, again, that's a process that can cause lows to deepen and strengthen, as we'll see with this, but it's not going to be that purely tropical system going forward. So I would not be surprised, and the Hurricane Center is sort of acknowledging this in their latest discussion, that as early as later on this morning, this could be designated a non-tropical low. So as we look at the cone forecast from the Hurricane Center, it does show a Category 1 hurricane here. The problem is, I think that would be a non-tropical low at that point in time. So we'll see what they do with the classification. I suppose not out of the realm of possibility they hold on to the tropical definition and make this a hurricane, the first hurricane of the season by early tomorrow morning. I think more likely it's just a non-tropical, extratropical low producing hurricane force winds. It then moves off to the north and east, basically gets absorbed into that upper trough, that dip in the jet stream that then weakens too and just sort of falls apart prior to moving anywhere close to Europe into early next week. And that will be it for Dexter, for storm number 4 of 2025. We then look to the east of the Carolinas as we go into the weekend. There's an area of low pressure right about here right now. You can see for yourself, it's not much to look at as it moves north and then northeast, and all indications are now this will stay offshore the Carolinas. Earlier on this week, we were talking about potentially this bringing heavy rainfall there. I think, again, it stays offshore and therefore keeps the heavy rain offshore with it. 30% development chance, a scenario somewhat similar to what we were talking about with Dexter. Non-tropical low sets up over the warm waters. Maybe we get a depression or tropical storm to form up from that. And it's bringing that deep tropical moisture to us here in Florida. Big part of the reason why it was so stormy yesterday, why it will be so stormy going forward. Tropical wave in the east central, south central Atlantic, right about here. Again, looking fairly disorganized and ragged at this point in time. But as this begins to lift north and westward, indications are conditions become a little more ripe for development. And the Hurricane Center is still holding with a 60% development chance. Again, the system's right here. It'll drift north and west as we head through the weekend. As I'll show you with the model plots in just a moment here, all indications are this stays well to the east of the Caribbean, and as such, stays well to the east of the United States. Maybe something to watch for Bermuda down the line, but this is not a Florida threat, even if this comes together. I've got lots of questions over this storm in the last couple of days. This is not something you should be worrying about here in Southwest Florida. Even if this does come together, it will not come anywhere close to us You can see the model plots. Yeah, there's one outlier that takes this more due west towards the Caribbean. That's all that is. I suspect that particular outlier, which I haven't dived into exactly what model that is, but I suspect that doesn't develop it and just keeps it as an open wave. Whereas the ones that do develop it turn this to the north, riding the fringes of that Bermuda Azores high. This is a big feature we talk about as we go into the peak of hurricane season, that large area of high pressure that sits there basically all summer long. Now, the positioning of it and the strength of it varies from day to day, from week to week. Sometimes it's stretched out across the entire basin. Sometimes it's weaker, centered more to the north and east. Sometimes stronger, centered closer to Bermuda. And that has a big influence on where storms go, because storms tend to ride the fringes of that high pressure area. Can't move into it, have to go around it, and they do sort of go around the edges of it. So in this case, in our case, with the storm we're watching in the central Atlantic, this is by Sunday. It's looking at surface pressure. So that little area of lighter blue would be your developing low, your perhaps tropical depression at that point in time. The deep blue is the steering high. So it is centered much closer to the Azores than Bermuda and fairly weak. And that allows, with these lighter blue colors, more of that window of opportunity for it to move to the north and west. There you go, to trace out. This is the GFS forecast model, by the way. It continues to track that system well to the east of Florida as we go into early next week. I want to note, though, that high pressure in the wake of that system gaining strength and diving further to the south. It basically builds in behind it, and that will be a factor as we go into next week, because another wave is going to emerge off of Africa. This is what we see as we get towards the peak of hurricane season. These frequent waves that come off of Africa that have to be watched one after another for development. Starting to see those storms there in the central parts of the continent. That going to move out over the waters this weekend with that high pressure dug a little further to the south. I think that one has more of an opportunity to take more of a due westerly course towards the Caribbean. This is the ensemble of the European forecast model. This is for next weekend. So we're talking not this coming weekend, but 2 weekends out from now, the August 12th, 13th time frame. Look at the calendar, the August 16th and 17th time frame. There you go. So a long ways out, but it does place a area of low pressure at the very least, potentially a tropical storm close to the Caribbean in that time frame. Now, there's lots of color here. This is the ensemble forecast, meaning you're taking the model, you're tweaking it 50 plus different ways, and then running all of those variants of the model out concurrently. And this is plotting out where those different variants have something of tropical storm strength. A few members have something all the way out into the Caribbean, a few into the central Atlantic, a few still lagging behind, but there is a fairly decent signal that there could be something close to the Caribbean staying on a westerly course 2 weekends out from now. So a long way out from now. More something we'll be talking about as we get into next week, but all signs that, including the activity you're seeing out there right now, yeah, the Atlantic ramping up as we get towards the peak of hurricane season in the next couple of weeks. It's important here in Florida. No threats at this point, but it's important that you're keeping an eye on the forecast here, that you're sticking with us, with the Gulf Coast Storm Team, as we'll be tracking things for you day in and day out. Anything out there in the Atlantic, yeah, we'll be tracking it for you. Next names on the list: Aaron, Fernand, Gabrielle, as we continue this 2025 hurricane season. Well, that's it for this edition of Tropics Talk. I'll be back with another update for you tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.